Hey everyone! So, have you ever found yourself wondering if there is some hidden, ultimate truth to life that absolutely no one is telling you? Well, today we are taking a majestic journey through a profound philosophical explainer, diving deep into one of the most significant texts in all of Eastern wisdom, the Mahaparinirana Sutra. And we're going to look at this through a really specific, fascinating lens. We are stepping right into the shoes of Bodhisattva Kashyapa. Think of him as this brilliant, sharp Socratic student who is basically cross-examining the ultimate teacher, the Buddha. By following Kashyapa's intense line of questioning, we're going to map out the entire logical framework of this ancient dialogue. Together, we'll discover exactly how the Tathagata answers some incredibly tough, fundamental questions about true liberation, eternal existence, and the real nature of suffering and joy. It is going to be quite a ride. Here is the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll start with Kashyapa's ultimate doubt, move on to the myth of the secret treasury, tackle the huge paradox of impermanence versus eternity, explore the true nature of liberation, and finally, look at breaking the metaphors. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Kashyapa's ultimate doubt. The ultimate question. So let's set the stage here. Kashyapa isn't just sitting in the back of the class passively taking notes. He steps right up to challenge the ultimate teacher with a massive foundational question about trust. He poses this really piercing doubt. Is the Buddha intentionally hiding the ultimate truth from us? He actually compares the Buddha to a master illusionist. Picture a magician operating these elaborate mechanical puppets. The audience sees the puppets moving around on stage, but the magician keeps all the gears and internal mechanics completely hidden in a secret treasury. Kashyapa is basically asking, hey, are you holding out on us? Are there secret teachings that you're just keeping locked away? It's a super bold question that demands a direct answer. Which brings us to Section 2, the myth of the secret treasury, and why there are no hidden teachings. Let's see how the Buddha responds to this accusation. The amazing thing is, he doesn't get defensive at all. Instead, he beautifully and systematically just dismantles this entire idea of hidden secrets. He gives us incredibly serene, visual answer. He states that his teachings are completely open. He says they are like the full moon in autumn stationed in the open sky, pure and without obscuration, seen by all. He goes on to explain that, people who hide things usually do it out of jealousy or stinginess or maybe even shame. But the Buddha, he has boundless spiritual wealth, and he looks at all sentient beings with the exact same love a parent has for their only child. The teachings are entirely out in the open. It's really only those who don't yet understand who perceive them as a secret. To explain exactly why some teachings might seem hidden, the Buddha reveals a brilliant point. It's not secrecy, it's pedagogy. It's just good teaching. He uses this great analogy of a wealthy father. Now, the father loves his young son deeply, right? But he doesn't start by handing him advanced calculus or dense literature. He starts with the half word, the basic alphabet, simply because the child isn't ready for anything else. Only when the child matures does the father teach the full word, the truly advanced concepts. The Buddha is saying he tailors his lessons based entirely on the learner's readiness. He taught the early disciples the half word of impermanence because that was what they could handle at the time. But now he's finally revealing the full word, the ultimate teachings of eternity. Moving right along, we hit Section 3, Impermanence versus Eternity, the Ultimate Paradox. This brings us to the next logical trap Kashyapa sets, and man, it is a brilliant one. It cuts right to the core of the Buddha's very nature. Kashyapa points out a massive, glaring contradiction. He basically says, wait a second, you just said the full word is that the Buddha is eternal, but previously you explicitly taught that literally everything is impermanent, and that even Buddhas and enlightened beings must eventually shed their physical bodies and die just like normal people. So which is it? This paradox is the absolute heart of Kashyapa's cross-examination. So how in the world does the Buddha resolve this? Well, he reveals that his previous statements about the impermanence of Buddhas were a highly specific application of the half word. He tells this heartbreaking story about King Prasenajit. The king came to the Buddha entirely crushed by grief over the sudden death of his mother. He was willing to offer his entire kingdom just to bring her back. To gently comfort this grieving man, the Buddha used what's known as skillful means. He told the king, do not weep, for even Buddhas and enlightened beings must abandon their bodies. It wasn't the absolute metaphysical truth. It was medicine. It was designed specifically to ease a king's immediate suffering. And if you think about our own lives, sometimes we all need comforting half-truths just to survive a moment of profound grief, right? Long before we're ever ready to handle the absolute reality of the universe. With the context of that skillful means explained, the Buddha delivers the ultimate full-word conclusion to Kashyapa. He states it with absolute clarity. The Buddha's true nature, his Dharma body, is fundamentally eternal, unchanging, and completely indestructible. He actually compares it to a diamond. You cannot break it. It has no aging, no changing, and literally no death. This completely shatters everything Kashyapa thought he knew about the teachings up to this point. Now we're climbing to the climax of the explainer, Section 4, the nature of true liberation, the Great Nirvana. So, if the Buddha is indeed eternal, what exactly is the ultimate goal? What is this state known as true liberation? To define it, the Buddha first tells Kashyapa what it absolutely isn't. True liberation is fundamentally defined by the complete and total absence of all worldly suffering. In this state, there is zero aging, zero sickness, zero death. Just think about all the daily anxieties that weigh us down. Being chained to debts, the fear of our enemies, or just basic human sorrow. True liberation is the total absence of those poisoned arrows of earthly existence. To make this really concrete, the Buddha grounds these super abstract concepts using some amazing contrasting metaphors. He says worldly existence is like a fragile clay vase. It breaks easily and shatters loudly. Liberation, on the other hand, is an unbreakable, silent diamond vase. Worldly life is like suffering from a deeply embedded poisoned arrow. Liberation is receiving the absolute ultimate cure from the great physician. Worldly life is like being a poor man constantly crushed by debts and creditors. Liberation is becoming a wealthy elder with infinite, unburdened spiritual treasure. And this leads to a massive paradigm shift in the dialogue. The Buddha looks at Kashyapa and says, true liberation is the Tathagata, and the Tathagata is true liberation. They are one and the same. He literally equates his very existence with the ultimate goal itself. The Buddha isn't just some guy who achieved liberation. In his truest form, he literally is the embodiment of liberation itself, indestructible and eternal. But Kashyapa, being the incredibly sharp student he is, spots yet another paradox, and he hits the Buddha with his toughest question yet. He asks, okay, if true liberation, or nirvana, means leaving all physical sensation and the worldly mind completely behind, if there is no body left to feel and no mind left to perceive, then who is actually there to experience this ultimate joy you keep talking about? It is the ultimate philosophical contradiction, right? How on earth can there be joy if there is no one there to feel it? The Buddha's answer here is so deeply profound. He explains that ultimate joy isn't some worldly thrill or a physical sensation like we're used to. He uses this super visceral metaphor. He says, imagine a person who is violently ill because they've swallowed poison. They are in pure agony. But when they finally vomit up that poison, their body returns to a state of calm. Think about the incredible relief you feel when a severe fever finally breaks. You don't need a brand new, exciting sensation to feel good in that moment. The sheer, permanent relief from the poison of suffering is the ultimate peace. That absolute absence of affliction, that is what the Buddha calls the highest joy. Finally, we reach Section 5, breaking the metaphors. Words fall short. As we wrap up this logical framework, Kashyapa essentially admits that comparing the Buddha's boundless nature to things like empty space or everyday objects just feels incredibly inadequate. He says it's like trying to compare the rough, grating croak of an ordinary crow to the divine, totally unmatched song of the mythical Kulavinka bird. It just doesn't do it justice. And the Buddha completely agrees with him. Our worldly metaphors fundamentally fall short of capturing the true majesty of liberation. The Buddha's final parting point to Kashyapa is that all of these words, all these stories of diamond vases and great physicians and wealthy elders, they are all just skillful means. They are simply fingers pointing at the moon. And the crucial lesson is, you cannot mistake the pointing finger for the moon itself. They are just necessary pedagogical tools. They're designed to gently guide our limited, worldly minds toward an inconceivable, boundless truth that ultimately exists entirely beyond human language. So, having climbed Kashyapa's entire ladder of inquiry today, having seen the myths completely dismantled and the deepest contradictions resolved into this beautiful vision of indestructible, eternal peace, I want to leave you with this thought. The map is not the territory. And this explainer is not the experience. So are you ready to look past the pointing finger, break through the metaphors, and experience the pure, eternal autumn moon for yourself? Thank you so much for exploring this profound dialogue with me today. Keep asking those piercing questions.